I would like to file a motion to have charges all dismissed due to the Speedy Trial Act. And I don't think it's very fair that with having to go against people that have 8 years of schooling versus my hour and a half. Like, there's no way that will have 30 days to be able to study and defend myself from the time of this trial. You gave me bogus laws to look up and information, and you were biased.
I would suggest you apply for a lawyer instead of just complaining.
All right, folks, this video presents one of the dumbest sovereign citizens I've genuinely seen in my life. Honestly, how do such people still exist in 2025? This guy literally cannot read, yet he truly thinks he can walk into court and somehow defend himself like his illegal mastermind. And his primary argument here? He says he's not getting a fair trial because he only had 1 hour to study the law while the prosecutor had 7 years in law school. I mean, you seriously cannot make this stuff up. That's like showing up to a marathon with zero training and complaining that the Olympic runners had more time to prepare. This is about to be painful to watch but also highly entertaining. Let me know what you guys think in the comments while watching. Let's go ahead and dive in and watch this idiot get absolutely destroyed by the law.
People of the state of Michigan versus Benjamin Macario Martinez, 237407ST, 226707ST, and 162435FY. Concerning the matters then we were set over from last time, Mr. Downing, in regard to the underlying matters that are left open, has there been any progress?
Your Honor, an offer, I believe, was extended to Mr. Martinez by letter dated June 8th, while he's been incarcerated in the jail. We have not heard what his response is, so I will leave it to Mr. Martinez whether he wishes to enter a plea pursuant to that on the 2 files he has to that offer, or seek an adjournment.
All right, we're also here for sentencing on a number of contempt. So in regard to the 2 open charges, Mr. Martinez, and your proceeding here today in general, are you choosing to proceed without a lawyer here today?
Yes, I am, Your Honor.
So concerning the 2 files that remain open, 6707 and 7407, Ms. Cass apparently sent you another offer after we had court last time. Mr. Martinez, I have no idea what that offer is. The court is not part of any plea bargaining. You have both of these cases here. What is your position in respect to whatever they sent you?
I would like to file a motion to have charges all dismissed due to the Speedy Trial Act. And also, I didn't get, last time we were in court, I expressed to the court that I wasn't able to have reasonable time or inadequate law books. They're old. I only got an hour and a half. I only know some rules for an hour and a half of studying. So out of my freedom of speech and the rules of professional conduct, I'd like to read my motions.
My gracious, this fellow can barely read, and yet he aims to stand in court and read his own motions, like his illegal genius. Be candid, what would you rank his reading level? I'd probably judge maybe 6th grade, and that's already quite generous. But the actual kicker here? He's genuinely complaining about not having sufficient time to study the law. Like, sir, do you seriously expect the judge will put your case on hold for the next 7 years so you can acquire a law degree? The entitlement is insane. Back in my time, if you didn't know how to do a thing, you found someone who did. You didn't throw a fit and expect the world to bend backward for you. I mean, the court has already provided him options, retain a lawyer, take a public defender, or represent yourself if you truly understand your material. But evidently, he does not at all. I mean, what's next for him? Is he going to ask for a delay so he can get sworn into the Supreme Court? What are your thoughts on this guy up to now? Let's dive back in.
All right, go right ahead.
For a waste of time and the more money of the people and their state, I would like to say this under the right of free speech, and I would like to invoke on my rights, civil and state laws, to state and file motions and to be treated fairly by judge and prosecution, to uphold all the laws that are to be held in the courts, and so as me representing myself can have a fair chance without having rights infringed upon by any members of the court, and I'm doing so. I'd like to file a motion to have all charges dismissed upon my rights being infringed and violated. Due to these reasons, rights to speedy trial and to have adequate time to with representing myself, and in doing so, these are my civil rights and need to be enforced and protected. Not enough time to study, even after motion, or the judge throughout plea, not able to study in a reasonable time, having defended myself when it was brought to the court's attention and prosecution. If need to, it's all on court record, transcripts and rights of trial by jury, and adequate time to have my own witnesses, which are under the time frame, and the prosecution knowingly didn't explain what or help me, which is repugnant and biased by the court, and for also the court saying and giving false advice, and also for my bond being excessive and also biased in setting bond by stating it's more than fair when I was unable to bond out. And when it was amended, I have reasons why 30 days from the timeline of being able to represent myself is being infringed on. And I'd like to have my trial by jurors, and these are the few offhand as to why. Most of the Speedy Trial Act and also False Pretense Act 774.49, they have to abide by all Supreme Court rules and also rules of professional conduct. Opinion 4, which is federal, asking for help retaining for motion, prosecutors rule 3.8, didn't take action or all actions, making sure my rights were protected, and rules 4.3, if they know the law and what I'm saying, these are US Supreme Court, Michigan rules. And
is anyone else just anticipating the judge to strike him with "nice speech, little man," motion rejected? Because frankly, that's precisely where this is going. This gentleman truly didn't have to vocalize his motion as if he were giving the Gettysburg Address. I bet the judge only consented to let this sovereign citizen present it solely for the amusement factor, like, sure, proceed, let's all enjoy a good chuckle, and truthfully, that's likely the sole reason she didn't stop him instantly. Judges possess the authority to reject frivolous motions immediately, especially when they consume the court's resources, and this is a perfect illustration of that principle. Rule 11 of the Federal Rules of Civil Procedure specifically exists to prevent absurdity like this. Courts can penalize individuals for submitting unfounded motions, exactly like this. But, perhaps he believes if he speaks long enough, the judge will miraculously grasp his sovereign insight and drop the entire suit. Alert, that's not occurring.
Impartial trial, miscarriage, also People versus Lehman, stating that I shouldn't be in jail or in prison for fines when able to prove I was unable to meet the court's obligations. And I was also in jail during the time of the one failure to appear. And I don't think it's very fair that with having to go against people that have 8 years of schooling versus my hour and a half, when I've asked every day to go to the law library and kited, and there's no way that my act to speedy trial, if you need that read, can never be met. And I got a bunch of federal laws too that if we have to go through all them, why? Or I can write them up in a motion to have more reasons for dismissal.
All right, thank you, Mr. Martinez. Mr. Downing, do you wish an opportunity to respond, or do you want an opportunity to do a written response, or where are you at with that?
That's a very rambling, if you want to call it, motion. I don't know how any kind of speedy trial is impacted here, in as much as one of these was just set for trial and the first trial date was today. He also failed to appear on the other one. He's set for sentencing on that. If he's complaining about legal research, he has a right to a court-appointed attorney to assist him in advising him of all that. I do note the record 2 handwritten responses from Mr. Martinez in response to Ms. Cass's offer letter asking to discuss the offer with her. It says nothing in there about speedy trial or anything of that nature. To the extent that he's setting himself up or trying to set himself up for these objections, I don't think there's any basis for it whatsoever. But if the court would like a written response, we would need a transcript of what he has rambled on about here in order to decide what it is exactly he's arguing.
All right, in regard to the matter, we've spent a good hour and a half or more on the record. I think it was last week, maybe the week before. We went through a whole plea colloquy. We got down to the end. The deal had been made. He decided at the last minute then he wanted to have a trial. So we set this matter over to today's date. He didn't want a lawyer then. He doesn't want a lawyer now, yet you want to complain that you don't have access. You're going up against people with 8 years of education. Which is it, Mr. Martinez? You want to represent yourself or you want a lawyer?
I want to represent myself, but I also was given false information by some court officers that I wasn't allowed to have a standby counsel or have advice by a counsel. And I know there's also a federal law that says that I'm able to have third-party advice. So I like I said, I only got out for 2 days, really, the last 2 days. I don't know how I'm supposed to be able to study upon the law, which I stated last time that the law books are and pages are missing out of them. And I showed guards that last night. Like there's no way that will have 30 days to be able to study and defend myself from the time of this trial.
Is this man acting foolish, or is he simply this unaware? I'm certainly believing he's acting foolish, just because there is no chance someone could be this idiotic when they are facing definite jail time. Like, this isn't a college pop quiz, you don't just attempt it and pray for success. His entire defense falls apart under the simple fact that he could have a public defender for free, but no. Instead of accepting the free legal aid, he'd prefer to waste our time filing silly appeals and then complaining that he only had 60 minutes to prepare for court. What did he actually think this was? An unsealed document test or something? This person brings to mind that classmate in school who clearly didn't study his material, but instead of conceding it, he just starts improvising and hoping everyone misses it. Breaking news, we all noticed. Tell me what you all think if this guy's acting stupid or not. Let's delve back into it.
It's that, and there's a federal law that, and if you want to see the Speedy Trial Act, I have it right here. I can read it off.
Pretty familiar with that. I've been at it about 35 years now.
Okay.
So in regard to the matter, Mr. Martinez, your motions are denied. In regard to your lack of a speedy trial issue, the following is my finding. One, first off, I'm going to sentence you on all of these failures to appear in contempt of courts. Last week, you had the opportunity. I dismissed and purged 2 of them. If you pled on 2 of them, we got through the whole plea colloquy on that. And oh, you didn't want that either. So then we went through the hearings and I found you guilty of 4 contempts because you failed to appear 3 times and you haven't paid. We're looking at a what, 2016 case that you still haven't paid on. So this is my sentence. You want to say anything in respect to your failures to appear sentencing before I impose sentence? Mr. Martinez.
Yes, there's federal laws state and that you cannot imprison somebody for fines being unpaid. And I already told you that I can prove that I wasn't there. You guys know the law. You're supposed to uphold it on both sides. I know that. It
Well, I
says
made
that.
my findings. You are able to appeal
You
anything
gave me
you wish,
bogus
Mr.
information.
Martinez.
You're not supposed to give me legal information. That's not you're not supposed to do that. The only thing you can tell me is I can go by representation or I'm allowed to have an attorney. You gave me bogus laws to look up and information and you were biased. So there's
That's right.
another reason.
Well, Mr. Martinez, your objections are noted for the record and preserved. In regard to the matter on the failure to appear and failure to pay in 162435 FY, I'm imposing 45 days in jail, 23 days of credit on both counts. In respect to 226707 ST, 2 failures to appear, 45 days in jail, credit for 23 days concurrently with the other case. However, at this point in time, Mr. Martinez is 1, serving a sentence, 2, has failed to appear numerous times in this trial previously, including several trial dates that were set timely. And the reason that it's not going to trial, for example, I gave him a timely trial date back on April 29th of 22, and he didn't do us the courtesy of bothering to come to court. So I am finding under the court rules, there is good cause and clear and convincing evidence that's been demonstrated that he's likely to fail to appear for future proceedings, should I give him a PR bond on this case. So for those reasons, I'm leaving the bond in place. We'll set a firm trial date for July 10th. We'll trail the new file along. And if you change your mind about a lawyer in the meantime, Mr. Martinez, you can make the request to the district court clerk. She'll refer it to the Michigan Indigent Defense Commission. They'll decide whether you qualify. In the meantime, the sheriff has the purview of the resources over there. You're entitled to use the jail resources. The sheriff is the one that's going to decide what the time parameters are. I don't have any control over the sheriff. So you can complain. Your record is set. You have made your record. It's all preserved here today. But in respect to the issue, if you really want to have some assistance and get some meaningful legal advice, I would suggest you apply for a lawyer instead of just complaining about it. But that might actually get you somewhere. So I don't know, Mr. Martinez, it's on you.
Flawlessly expressed, this judge performed admirably in my estimation. I think she might have dismissed this fool somewhat sooner, yet then again, we wouldn't have enjoyed such a satisfying chuckle at his expense. Seriously though, what precisely was this fellow considering when he entered the courtroom today? Did he genuinely believe he would manipulate his way to triumph when he could barely articulate from that wrinkled scrap of paper he likely discovered on the detention center floor? This is precisely why understanding your rights is crucial, not so you can introduce some fabricated legal absurdity, but rather so you avoid ending up like him, mortifying yourself before a judge who possesses zero tolerance for antics. But honestly, ultimately, courts do not tolerate rubbish like this, even though the judge was quite composed and she kind of offered him some remarks at the conclusion there, but courts are clearly not even going to acknowledge your proposal when you literally have complimentary counsel available, like it simply defies logic. This was quite possibly one of the most idiotic arguments I have ever witnessed in my entire existence, probably. He was absolutely a living illustration of what not to attempt in a courtroom. The law is not some pick-your-own-path novel where you can merely invent the guidelines as you proceed. But hey, at least this guy provided all of us with some genuine amusement today. But yeah, folks, I will conclude it here. Inform me what you thought about this simpleton here. He was a stereotypical sovereign citizen, and candidly, I would probably assess him at about a 6th grade literacy level. That's fairly charitable, as I mentioned. So, let me know if you concur with me on that point or not. But genuinely, you know I'm going to retract that. I'll probably say 3rd grade after observing that one. But regardless, it is not very high whatsoever. But if you guys enjoyed this, I would truly appreciate a thumbs up and subscription,